A lot of talk about two-state. You know who doesn't want a two-state? Who will never allow a two-state? Hamas. And this is why they can never, they just cannot exist going forward.
Well, I love it. That's the National Security Advisor. Hamas, however, did you see this? When these savages delivered the bodies of those children, the Bebas children, there are a lot of Hamas guys still alive. Yikes. This conflict still going on. Morgan Ortagus is the Deputy Special Envoy to the Middle East. She works closely with Steve Witkoff. Morgan, great to see you again. Congratulations on this amazing role. How are you, and how's the job going so far?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well. I'm thrilled to be on your show. Listen, it's an honor of the lifetime to work again, the second time for President Trump. In his first term, I was a spokesperson at the State Department. And now, along with Steve Witkoff, they've placed a lot of trust in me to work with them on the Middle East. And as you're showing with the images here, and you're showing Mike Waltz speaking before CPAC, we, of course, have an incredible responsibility to fix the Middle East. And I will tell you, I think when President Trump had to come in 2017, he had to destroy the physical caliphate of ISIS and really right so many things that had gone wrong in the Middle East. But now, over these past 4 years, the challenge is even greater. It's a bigger mess. Israel's facing a seven-front war, and this isn't talked about enough. Over 40 Americans were killed on October 7th, and they were not avenged in the Biden administration. So I'm proud to work for a president and for Steve Witkoff, who are standing strong and tough to get the Middle East right and peaceful again.
That's fantastic. Hey, by the way, though, those images, I must say I was surprised to see so many of these Hamas guys out in the open. I know Israel is all over this, and we've got drones and following these guys. If we can roll that video again. Were you taken aback by the presence of these guys? Because I know we've killed a lot, or Israel has killed a lot, but they seem to be a lot there, or is this possibly not as many as it might seem?
Well, the images are clearly disturbing that you showed for your audience. I think you're entirely right. And what's disturbing when you see these images is you see civilians that are cheering, that are gleeful, that babies are being returned home in coffins. And of course, at the time, everybody thought that the mother of those babies were in those coffins as well. We know now, of course, that Hamas has tried to trick the Israelis, has tried to trick the family by not even putting her body in. It was a body of an unidentified woman. Just unspeakable brutality. You have to remember also, on October 7th, it wasn't just Hamas from Gaza that came over and breached Israel, that breached the walls. You had the first wave of Hamas. Then you had Palestinian Islamic Jihad, another terror group, and Hamas and other operatives. But in the third wave, you had civilians that came over into Israel that day and helped kidnap people, that helped with to commit these heinous crimes. So I think what we're seeing here excuse me, is a population that desperately not only needs to be de-radicalized, but needs to be demilitarized as well. Demilitarized, de-radicalized. This is why President Trump, Steve Witkoff, and Mike Waltz talk about the fact that Hamas cannot rule Gaza again, and they have to ensure that this doesn't happen, and whatever the day after all of this looks like.
Do me a favor. We all remember this, but I would like to, for our audience and for me, and D02, President Trump, a very, very stern warning to Hamas and beyond. D02.
Do I have to define it for you? Look, all hell will break out. If those hostages aren't back, I don't want to hurt your negotiation. If they're not back by the time I get into office, all hell will break out in the Middle East. Can you elaborate? And it will not be good for Hamas, and it will not be good, frankly, for anyone. All hell will break out. I don't have to say anymore, but that's what it is. And they should have given them back a long time. They should have never taken them.
So a lot of momentum happened after that. And obviously things are happening now because he's in office. So that's great. But what is the status now of all the hostages? I mean, I'm a little bit confused. Are they all back, or what's going on?
No. No, unfortunately, they're not all back yet. There is supposed to be another exchange of hostages on Saturday. And so Israel's still waiting for that to happen. And unfortunately, we do have one American that is still detained. So you're coming near the end of the ceasefire deal, what's called phase 1, and then going into phase 2 is supposed to be basically, essentially sort of the end of the war when Hamas agrees to lay down its arms and to wave the white flag. That seems incredibly difficult whenever you see those images today, that can happen. But there's still a lot of negotiations that need to happen because, you know, it's a very clear mandate from the president and his team that Hamas is not going to rule Gaza again. I mean, how could they? Again, over 40 Americans in addition to the number of Israelis. You know, the single largest killing of the Jewish people in any day since the Holocaust happened on October 7th. Now, the Biden administration, his team, they couldn't get to a deal. The only way they were able even to get to a deal was whenever Steve Witkoff, before anyone even swore in to be government employees, went to the Middle East and helped get that deal through. So that deal is happening right now. Yes, there are still live bodies that have yet to be returned, people that are still alive, but there are, of course, deceased people, hostages, and those family members want those bodies back. I completely understand that. If I was in the situation of those families, I would want that back as well. So we know that President Trump is a president of peace, but he's not afraid and not shy, as you just showed in that clip, to threaten the use of force if he needs to.
Morgan Ortagus, the Deputy Special Envoy to the Middle East, thank you for joining us. So glad you have this role. To be continued, and we'll be right back.